Right, in this video I'm going to show you how to make this dead simple toolbox using the bare minimum of tools. Right, in this video we're going to make a really simple toolbox to carry our tools in. Keeping your tools safe is one of my top things. Keep protecting edges and stuff like that. Having a toolbox is the first step to that, and keeping it all together so you know where to find it. It'll make you much more efficient in your work if you're not having to hunt around to find bits and pieces. If you know where everything is, everything in its place. No, the phrase goes, a place for everything and everything in its place, right? And I really do think that as well. Although it might look cluttered in here, I know where everything is. So what we're going to do, we're going to build it out of some reclaimed pine that I've got some boards here. We don't need much. I've got more there than I actually need. I've got a bit of broom handle and I've got an offcut of ply. And then we've got pretty much the same basic tools that we used when we made the sawhorse. So we've got some chisels, some saws, mallets, hammer. I've got a drill, a square, and I actually got a marking gauge because we're going to try and do the rebates, but I wasn't going to use, normally I do it on my router table, but decided to try and do this as basic as possible. So we're going to use a marking gauge and some chisels, and it shouldn't take too long at all. Luckily for me, all my boards are about the same width. I've just gone over them now and checked there's no staples or anything that can damage a saw blade in there. Last thing I want, or a chisel blade, is to hit something. These are from old pallet collars, and what I've looked for is to make sure they're kind of flat, not kind of cut, and no splits in them, or the splits aren't in a place that's going to matter too much. So what we want to start with is get two ends, which are going to be about 30 centimetres, so about a foot. I think if we cut two pieces at a foot, we won't use that piece, that has got a little crack down it, so we could use this one. We've got 30 inches there. We'll try not to do any knots around where we're going to put the handle. We'll do the same on this one as well. We'll cut ourselves a piece, and then we're going to cut some sloping sides just to make it look a bit more ergonomic. So let's square off the ends first, and then we can work off a square end. One square end, two square ends. Now, if you're not used to sawing, I'd recommend you square down the other side as well. Even if it's just a little line you can see, just give ourselves a bit more room on that one. Don't saw too close to the edge if you don't have to. All good kindling. So, I've marked both edges, and what I'll do now is put it on the sawhorse, and you want to line those two up. Let me show you. Right. Sawhorse. Sawhorse is the perfect height for sawing. That's why I make them. So, clamp with your one knee. And then you just pull it back to start. I've got my thumb just there. I know I'm on the line, okay? And I can see down that line, I can see down that line. A lot of people struggle to keep straight. It's often because their saw's too high. So if you drop that angle down, especially if you started right, it should just saw nice, straight. Perfect. Light the fire later with that. Do the same on the other one. Now I'm going to mark 12 inches. Go for 12 inches, a bit higher than 30 centimetres. I'm going to mark right across there again. Actually, we could just do one and then mark the other off it. What we want to know, and we're going to have the sides are going to be 5 inches high. 125. Okay, so if we mark those, we know we want to leave that alone. And what we'll do is we know we've got this bit here. We're going to give ourselves a bit of a gap there. So if we mark the halfway point, so these boards are 192. So what I quite often do, if I can't be bothered to work it out, so just twist your tape until you get to a whole number. So I know half of 8 is 4. So easy way to find the centre line. Easy and lazy way. And then we'll mark that line down a little bit. And then we'll take this, and we know roughly, I reckon we want a good ½ inch or so either side of that. So if we go about ½ inch either side, about there. So from the centre line, we'll come 25mm out, do it 2-inch top, be alright. And then, even using a square, obviously you can set a bevel for this, there's not much point. Oops. Now we've got our rough shape marked out, we know that the handle's going to go through there, okay? So we'll cut that across, make those 2 cuts. That's the one end of our toolbox. So we'll do that same on the other one. The other piece, we just use this one as a pan. Try and find the most effective use of the timber now. I've got a horrible little knot there, I don't really want in it. If we're going about 20 inches long, 500 long, so I'll tell you what, we'll cut that knot out and we'll cut up to 20 inches and then we'll rip that down then to 5 inches. So right, piece 5 inches wide. Pick the best side, so that's 5 inches there. Go real simple. Drop the tape, have your finger against the wood, and then just run it like a gauge. Done. I will use some of these other offcuts. I make lots of different products. Some of them use a lot smaller timber than others, so not all of it will end up on the fire. Just be careful when you're doing this not to saw into your sawhorse. I'm holding the waste now because otherwise it starts to bounce and pull on the saw. So if I keep my hand there hard, I get a much smoother cut. And you see that's not perfect, but it's not too bad. So we'll do that again. Cut another one of those. Now with those bits cut, we can either sand or plane up that, depending on what tools you've got. I'm going to give it a quick plane, just to take my saw marks off. But actually, It's not too bad. So a bit of 80 grit paper by hand would be fine, or in a sand with a sander would be even better. But we'll do that. Get all the pieces so they've got smoothed edges, nice to hold, and then we can look at doing some rebate joints just to hold it all together. Giving them a quick light sand over, just some 80 grit. Doesn't need to be too fancy. What I've got now is the marking gauge. It's dead simple to use. This is an old one with a wooden screw. Bought it from a car boot about 20 something years ago, and I still use it. So I've got some ply here. This is some 9mm or 3/8 ply, which is plenty strong enough for what we're doing. And I'm just going to set the gauge there to be a little bit more, only ever so slightly more than the thickness of the ply, because I want it sat underneath. If you're struggling to set these, you can tap them on the table. That will adjust it one way, that will adjust it another. And that's if you're trying to get really fine measurements. That seems set fine. So what I'm going to do, pick on these boards. I like the bits where the writing has been to be on the outside. I like it to look like reclaimed timber. I'm going to get this, and as this is the thickness, I'm just going to run this down here, nice and hard. Careful not to run off the bench like I just did. And keeping a nice straight line. Nice. We know how thick we're going to do. We're going to do that to all of them now. So the two side ones, let's turn that round. What you want to do is make sure you pick an edge which hasn't got any knots ideally. So you've got nice groove down there. Onto the camera just so you can see. And then I'm going to go pick my outside, and this is going to go across the bottom. That's actually tearing it. If I had a knife one, it'd be a better job, but it's a toolbox. It don't have to be too fussy with it. But it is tearing a little bit. Okay, so we've scored in our groove that way. We want our groove this way. We'll go a little bit deeper. We'll go about 1/2 inch. Give us something to nail to when we fix the ply in. So we're going to go down here, and this is our line that we're going to work to in a minute with our chisel. Now obviously if we had a rebate plane or something, we could use that. I could use the router table. Sometimes if the grain's running out, you might be better off coming the other way, because what will happen is it will pull your marking gauge off, like that has there. Let's see, it's pulled it off because of the way the grain is. So I'll just have to pull it backwards. Make sure you get the right side. That looks fairly straight. Okay, with that scored line now, we're going to go across it. Not going the full depth the first time. Keep your chisel cuts together. You can break those off. And then be really careful. Obviously, the wood would love to split that way. So just mark your line out again, and then go down to where you're going to. Never push towards your leg. Let's get my leg up here. See that all right? Cross on the line. You can see I made the rebate, so just finish that all on there now. Right, we're going to chisel the end grain now. Make sure the whole thing's supported. There's nothing away, just resting in midair. And then we're going to use just a little 3/4 inch chisel, some good hard taps, lay it into the groove. We can break off some of this. Now we're getting near to be able to tidy it up. So what we're going to do is we're going to push the chisel into the groove. Now what we don't do is we don't have our hand here. That's really dangerous. If that slips, that's why I've got quite a few scars on my left hand, many other reasons. So what I'm going to do is make sure I hold it in two hands. I'm going to hold the left hand over the blade like that. Right hand comes up over it like that. And they're almost held in tension, so you've got really good control. So the kind of, this one's almost pulling back, this one's almost pushing forward, and it just works well. And you can see it goes into the groove. Probably want to just chop a little bit more there before I do it properly. There we go. How well you can see that we're getting there. Looks like that one's a bit more choppy. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is on the underside of the toolbox. No one's really going to see that. There we go. And there's a straight edge across it. Check how straight it is. The wood is a little cut. So that's good enough. Obviously this isn't the easiest way to do this by hand. A rebate plane with this. So a rebate plane means that the edges of the blade go right up to the sides of the plane. And it means then if I could run the plane across there like that. Obviously you'd have to take care of tear out on this end. So you might have to put a piece of wood there when running across the end grain like that. But this is what you use a lot of green oak framing, doing tenons and things. It's why it has got a bit of a blue tinge to it, working with green oak. But it's a brilliant tool, quite aggressive if you want it to be as well, especially when working across the grain like that. But it could also be used, you know, we're going to do these ones as well. It can be used down there as well. So just think about this actually. While I'm breaking it off, I tend to use it, so I've got the bevel on the underside to break it off. And it's only at the last time when I'm doing the final bit of tidying up that I turn it around and have it flat. And that's when I've got it between the two hands and kind of going like that. Just in case, so like now that is, the bevel's on the underside there. So I've got more control over it really. And if I can just finish this last bit off. Always trying to keep it square. So now I can flip it round. The bevel's on the top now. It gives me a nice clean cut. And just the weight of your body will finish those little feathery bits off. Perfect. So we have the rebates cut for the bottom all the way around. So the only thing now is I want the side to overlap onto the end panel. So we're going to rebate that as well. So we're going to go the same thickness thickness that we did there with our marking gauge. Hold it on a bench or something. It's going to go like that. We'll do both sides. Then we'll set our marking gauge to the thickness of our end piece. Or thereabouts. And making sure we're on the inside, marking the right side. Rebate on the inside. Now actually we could, with this one, use just a tenon saw and a bench hook. Hold in with a bench hook, just make sure you're pushing really hard with this hand. Again, starting with your thumb, move your thumb away. And I'm going to bring the heel of it down first. Do with a pencil actually. And I'll just mark that line around there so I know where I'm going to. I know I'm going to that side obviously. And then it's just a case getting to that line. Go a little tiny bit more. Now, we can either put this in the vise, saw it like a tenon, or we can do the easier thing and chisel it away. Again, making sure your hand doesn't go behind where your chisel's going to go. So you can use a clamp, or you can use dogs. But if your grain's relatively straight, it should split roughly where you want it to. There might just be a case of just tidying it up where it's a little bit high. Or running the saw back in it. Pencil line wasn't quite there. There we go. Then spend a bit of time just tidying it up with a chisel and work on the other 3 rebates as well. And we're almost ready for assembly. Now, just first try. Okay, it's not too bad. You can see it wants a little bit of tidying up. Probably a little bit more, 90 degrees. Actually, the board's a little bit cupped. So it's not going to help matters. But if I take a bit more out of the one end, that'd be nice and tidy. And you can see how the rebate will run round on the inside. So we'll be able to sink our ply into there and that'll hold the whole box together. Okay, the other thing actually to watch out for, which I didn't mention before, is grain direction. So, see this on here. The grain sloping down that way makes it really tricky. So if you're going to chisel across that way, then the wood's going to want to go down that way. So you might be better off coming off from the edge, chiseling across. But just pay attention to it. When you start, you'll be able to see. So I chipped off a few bits there and I could see straight away it was sloping downwards. If you see that. So just be mindful of that when you're doing the rebates. Right, we're nearly ready to assemble the sides. Before we do, we're going to make a hole for the handle. This is just some 28mm broomstick off eBay. It's not the best quality wood in the world, but it's fine for what we want. So I have a 28mm force bit, go into my drill. I picked up a piece of scrap I can drill into. We'll mark the one up and then we'll use that as a template. This one's already got the halfway line marked on it that we had before, so halfway down there. And if it's 28mm, how much do we want to give it above? Let's say 20mm, 18mm. So if we go 20mm and then we'll mark half of 28 is 14. We mark 14 down there. Now obviously it'd be better to do this on a pillar drill if you have a pillar drill. I have got a little one, but we'll just use this for now. These bits do need clearing a bit, they're not the best quality I've got. We'll just lie that one on there, get it somewhere near. There you go. Now drilling onto a waste piece of wood has two advantages. One, it means don't damage my workbench, which is obviously really important if you're drilling lots of holes. And the second one is, as you're drilling through, there is a tendency, if you're just drilling straight into a piece of wood, for it to break out on the backside. And what I didn't want is that to happen. I want the grain to be nice and clean cut. So having it kind of flat against the piece of scrap timber means that you drill and you drill a little bit further into your timber, but it cuts nice and clean and prevents any breakout. Okay, let's fix this together now. Got some 2" or 1.75", I'm not sure what they are, lost head nails there. Just bright ones to be fine. And we're going to use some glue. And I'm not going to pilot them to start with, I'm going to see how they go. So let's try this out. So it's always hardest doing the first one. Put some glue in the rebate. And actually, we will use 3 nails on each. But what we'll do is we'll blunt the end. So I've got a hammer there, look. I'm just going to blunt the end of the nail, and what that will do, hopefully, will mean that instead of the point splitting the fibres apart, which can cause it to split, it should just punch through the timber, if that makes sense. It's only going to go through this little bit, but we'll see. If it does decide to split, I'll stop and we'll pilot it. Now this is obviously the hardest bit, it's holding this all together. Okay, so I've decided to clamp it. I think it's a much better job, especially if this is meant to be a bit more of a how-to video. So we're going to line that up nicely. Once you've got the one side on, it's dead easy then. Rest it on this side. Actually, put some glue in there first. Obviously make sure everything's the right way round. Your rebates are facing inwards. Flush on the bottom. So now those are all on. Flip it over and we'll do the other side. Okay, what we got is a toolbox now with no base to it. So we're gonna, there's not much we can do to get it squarer than it is, so it'll just have to be as it is. But we'll measure up and then mark out on our piece of ply what size we want it. So it's going to want to be 192. Remember, don't make it too tight. By, don't know, done that one. 490 by 490. You might find when cutting ply that it starts to bind and pulling yourself. So what you might need to do is with your thumb on the offcut side, just pull it down, kind of wedge it apart a little bit if you can. And that might just help things cut a little smoother. Okay, by having it in a rebate, we've increased our glue surface area. So let's put some glue around the outside. And then we've used some much smaller nails to fix the ply down with. Normally I'd use my compressor and a little pin gun, but we're going to keep this as simple as possible. Actually, having that flat bit on the bottom really helps with this. What have we got? Okay, what I've got is probably too big, to be honest. So let's get some of these in. Okay, with the base on, I've cleaned up all the excess glue. We're nearly ready to roll. Just got the handle to fit. So what we're going to use is a bit of this broomstick, if it fits. It's a nice tight fit. I'm going to come past about an inch and a bit. So that's about 40 mil, 42 mil. So inch and 3/4 maybe. Do the same this side. And actually, we can just sort this off here, can't we? We can round that off with a bit of sandpaper or a knife afterwards. And then what we're going to use is a bit of this 1/2 inch dowel I've got as a bit of a tie to go through there. So we're going to be a little bit just doing stuff by eye. Let's find that. So I've got a different force bit here. I'm just going to mark that. And then do the same the other side. And then we'll drill this through onto our way to the wood again. Trying to keep it as straight as possible. Like I say before, a pillar drill is ideal. Got a little tiny bit of tear out there. Same this side. advantage with this is if you ever break the handle, nice and easy to replace. And we want, I reckon, a nice 2-inch piece. So as ever, bench up's a great way to cut anything small. To be honest, if I use the chop saw now, chances are that flies off into the distance anyway with something tiny like that. Let's mark both these up, I'm not too worried about the curve. Yeah, I was trying to escape. One. Two. So let's put, oh no, actually we need a spot of glue, I think it'll be alright. One in there, and then hopefully that one, try to put there nice. There we go, I'm laughing. There's our toolbox. There's a few finishing touches now. Let's brand it so we know who made it, and then let's give it a coat of linseed oil so that it'll last a bit longer. Okay, I'm using linseed oil to finish this. I find it as my go-to easy finish for kind of outdoor and gardening products. Just using a cotton rag. Now, just be careful when you finish with the rag that you don't leave it inside scrunched up, as they can spontaneously combust. So what I tend to do is always leave them outside, and if I'm finished with it, is I will chuck it in a bucket of water to make sure that it's not going to do that. There we go, a dead simple toolbox made with the bare minimum of tools. If you've watched this video to the end, thank you so much. If you could click the like button, that would mean the world to me, and subscribe. I plan on doing a few more of these, so making another one like this but with some more advanced tools, and then making a third one with a carved side to it. I do some nice garden toolboxes with carved sides to them, so I'm going to plan on making one of those as well. So if you'd like to see those, please leave a comment down below, and thanks for watching.